All right. We are live.
Wow. So welcome to the Eric and Lizz show. And why was there a breather? Why is always a breather there? Because then I'm hitting the record button, after we go. And oh my God, every time it seems to take so much concentration to just hit that button.
Just hit that button. Hello, everyone. I hope you guys have been doing well. And if you are joining us for the first time, we'd like to welcome you to the Eric and Lizz show. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. How you doing, Eric? How are you?
Good, good. And tell them also, please subscribe. Not
yes.
Just subscribe us.
Please hit that little red button and subscribe and tell your friends about it too. And if you are interested in being on our show, send us an email. We'd love to have you.
Please do so. So it's been quite a week, and I see that you have a nice bouquet of flowers there. Any significance?
Oh yeah, this is one of my bouquets from Mother's Day. I wanted to utilize this while I can because I love flowers, of course. I absolutely love flowers. So I got a couple of bouquet of flowers for Mother's Day. So I wanted to share them with you guys.
And we're Thursday and they still look good.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they smell good too.
Oh my God. You know what? That reminds me, we actually, for viewers which don't know where our show is airing from, it's airing from San Diego.
Yes.
And we actually have a rose garden in front of what's called Balboa Park. And we already for the second time went to the rose garden because I'm in full bloom, full flower. And the smells of some of those roses are so fragrant. You smell peach, you smell lychee, you smell vanilla. I mean, it's incredible. And some just look good and smell like nothing.
Right. It's that time of year, though. It's that time of year. But I love flowers all the time. All the time. I'm absolutely loving flowers. Yeah, so we have some wonderful guests today.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's still GBS Awareness Month.
Yes, GBS CIDP Awareness Month.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
I'm so bad with acronyms.
That's okay. That's okay. That's quite all right. So we have joining us Sophia Lamagui, and she is joining us locally from San Diego. And she has been a survivor since age 7. So that's quite some time. That's quite a while. And she's, around 21 right now. I can't believe I've been knowing her this long. So that means I've been the liaison for the GBS chapter here in San Diego for quite some time. That just kind of aged me.
Oh, come on.
But she is a delightful, delightful young lady. So I've actually seen her grow up. And we are so excited to have her with us today. She's going to share her story about CIDP. Last Thursday, it was GBS. This week, you'll be able to hear someone's story about CIDP.
And this time, we also have a second part of the show.
Right.
Which is Peter Maybury, who is going to tell us a story about the people in our age group retiring. So, okay, with no further ado, just let Sophia in and also Peter.
All right.
And just get them on board.
Hi.
Hi, Sophia. How are you?
How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing wonderful. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
And you know what? It's so funny. You both seem to sit on the same beach.
Oh my goodness, but I have my flowers.
That was not
Nice effects.
just that
It was not planned.
anything. And Sophia is going to be the first part of our show, and Peter the second part. But Peter, please, I encourage you, at any time, if you have any question which come up and you would like to ask Sophia, just raise your hand and be part of the conversation. And Sophia, thank you so much for being there.
Thank you for inviting
And
me.
thank you.
Yes.
And Liz told me so much about you, and I'm going to actually throw this back to Liz and make
All right. All right. So how are you today, Sophia? How's it going?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing awesome. We're doing awesome. We have been looking forward to having you on our show today. So I wanted to do just a little bit of introduction with Sophia in case, well, I know there's a lot of people that could possibly be watching and learning at the same time. This is a rare disease. It's a neurological disease of the nervous system. And Sophia got CIDP, I think around age 7. Is that correct? Around age 7. And she is actually from the Philippines. And she and her family kind of came this way, and we'll let her tell you a little bit about her story. And so Sophia, take it from here. Just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey through CIDP.
So we're actually from Guam, which is near the Philippines, so it can be easily mistaken. And I was born and raised there for a while, and then eventually in 2007, I got sick and they diagnosed it as GBS. However, shortly after that, I would say maybe into 2008, I got a relapse. And so they basically re-diagnosed me with CIDP, which is the neurological version of GBS. And the treatment on Guam, it was more limited because we're an island, and so we couldn't really necessarily get things in right away. And so a lot of it was just stressful on not only myself, but my parents and like everyone else involved with the whole situation. And so a lot of my treatment was just IVIG. And eventually I became resistant to the actual treatment itself. And so one time I remember that one of the packages is coming in late. So my mom actually woke me up early to go and pick it up herself because it was running that late. And so I remember just getting up in the middle of the morning as a little girl and then her running to like the actual airport and picking it up and everything. And that same day receiving it. And it was one of those things where, especially it was hard on my parents. Like it was one of those things as parents, like you have to really sit down and decide like, we're going to move not just me, but like our whole family and lives, like a long way from here. And so, yeah, in around 2010, that's when things weren't really looking that great. Like they kind of knew like I wasn't getting better. I became resistant to the treatment. And so my mom was basically getting desperate with like any outcome. And she even suggested at one point to the neurologist on Guam, which there is only one, she suggested giving me steroids. And a lot of them were hesitant to do it because I was only like 9 at the time. And steroids work really fast. So on a child, it's a very dangerous thing. And so eventually they got so desperate to the point where we just moved in a rush to San Diego, and we actually started seeing doctors previously from UCLA that would come to visit Guam to see me.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, they would actually, some of them would come to Guam to see me, or they would do a version of Zoom and they would talk to the neurologist here. But the issue was that there was only one neurologist and there's a lot of patients, and it was across the international date line. So a lot of the medicine coming in is not exactly on time all the time. And so eventually in 2010, later on, we moved here to San Diego and I got treated by familiar doctors from UCLA. And they actually started me off on prednisone, which is the steroid that they gave me originally.
Right.
And I would say within the next few days, I went from completely like disabled, like in a wheelchair, can't even lift the spoon, to actually like going on a walker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how fast it worked, which was good for the time being. But
Right.
even my doctors are kind of like, we can't keep her on this her whole life. Like, that's not going to work. It's dangerous. And so eventually, I remember during that summer, because we moved during the summer, I was going into 5th grade here, and no one knew me because I just moved. And so I was so determined to start walking at least, so I wouldn't be going to school with like a walker. And I remember I was so paranoid about that. But eventually I actually did it. I was able to walk normally by the end of summer, like right when I started orientation for my new school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then my doctor put me on prednisone for a while, but then eventually all the way till junior year in high school, I was actually okay until I got another relapse. And this is when they took me off medication.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about like what is a relapse for a CIDP patient? What is that like for you? How did you know that you were relapsing?
So it's going to sound really odd and unbelievable to people who don't experience it, because it's one of those things where you kind of actually have to experience it to really know. But essentially, you start to feel really tired. Like it can happen like when out of the blue, like you're at school or something and you start to feel really tired all of a sudden. And you start to feel kind of like it works its way from here all the way down. It's this tingly feeling like when your foot falls asleep and then it's waking back type of thing.
Right.
And then eventually from there, you start to struggle to lift things and move. And then within an hour, you can be totally immobile.
Oh my goodness. Wow. See, I wanted to establish the difference between GBS and CIDP. So GBS, it goes away a little faster. And CIDP is if you get sick again, it's more like a continuing type of thing. That's when they start possibly thinking it could be CIDP opposed to GBS, correct?
Yeah, the way the neurologist explained it to me was GBS, it's one of those things where it kind of happens once and you can have, I guess you could call it like life effects, but with CIDP, you can constantly keep kind of relapsing and you don't really know, you can't really tell when it's going to happen. So that's why they have to keep you monitored a lot.
Right.
So if I may ask, Sophia, so when you say you have to be monitored a lot, how often do you have to go to the doctor or have a health screen?
Well, besides like the normal primary care doctor, I see my neurologist every 6 months right now. But let's say back in junior year, when I had a relapse, I would see them like every 2 weeks around that park. And I also would have to kind of like check in through my chart, which is like a little app on your phone where you kind of like email them if they ask you like, how are you feeling with the new medication and all that. And it really just depends to the individual. Like, thankfully, I've been okay since then. And so she feels comfortable seeing me in person every 6 months. But if there's anything wrong, I can immediately contact her through my chart. And then before, when I was younger too, I would see them more often because it was kind of like touch and go. Like they weren't really exactly sure how my body deals with it and how it's handling like certain strong medications that they would give me. But now that my neurologist kind of knows like how my body handles it and how I react to certain things, she's more comfortable like delaying the time of an appointment. And a lot of the monitoring is also like self-monitoring. Like if I feel something going on or if I feel like it's related to the CIDP, then I have to notify them myself. Like they can't, one of the things I was taught when I was little is that if you don't say what you need and what you're feeling, they're never going to know. And so you just have to be direct with it.
Right. That's right. Exactly. So I kind of want to jump forward to something really exciting for you. I know that when you came to San Diego, I think your mom contacted Make-A-Wish Foundation. Could you tell us about that, please? That always warms my heart.
They first contacted my mom, but I believe the way we got in touch with Make-A-Wish was my dad's coworker. Actually, one of the little kids in his family met them, and they said to my dad, you know, especially with everything when I first moved here, my parents really thought it was touch and go with me. Like they really didn't know if I was really gonna make it. And so they're saying, you know, for children in a detrimental, like a terminal type of situation, Make-A-Wish will grant them a wish. And I remember I was around 5th grade because I first moved here. And these two really nice Make-A-Wish employees came up to my parents and started interviewing us. And they even got to know me and everything. And they explained the breakdown of how everything goes and how they said, if you can make one wish in the world, what would it be? And at first, obviously me being like 10 or 11, I said a cure, but then the lady quickly apologized and said that she should have been more clear about it. Like it has to be more realistic than that. And I'm a very family oriented person. Like I grew up on a really tiny island with my family, like right next door. So moving all the way to California was kind of like a big deal for not just our family, but our whole family as a unit. And so I said, if I could have one thing besides that, I would want to bring my cousins here. And to them, I felt like at first I was kind of confused why everyone was kind of making it such a big deal. Like a lot of the workers at Make-A-Wish kind of were like so shocked with the wish itself, which I never really understood why until my parents explained to me how, you know, a lot of families that are here, they're not like far. They could like drive over and see each other every once in a while. And they're really, really gracious and very giving about it. They actually flew a lot of my cousins over from Guam to California, and it was in December, so it was near my birthday. And they gave us like even like tickets to Disneyland and the zoo, and it was so fun because a lot of my cousins have actually never been there, so it was like a first experience for a lot of them. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I just want to, sorry to interject here, because Guam is actually U.S. territory.
Yes.
And I think that I wouldn't be surprised that quite a few of our viewers just don't know.
Oh, actually, no, I believe you, because when I first moved here, a lot of people were like asking me, where is Guam? And then they started asking me like, what is it kind of type of questions going on? And we're all little kids when I first moved here. So they're asking me this stuff. And I'm like, it's the same thing like here, except island, like climate. Just imagine like a small Hawaii with Florida weather, technically. Going on.
Yeah. And how far away?
Oh, geez. I don't know the exact, like how many miles away Guam
Not miles, but you put someone in a plane, how long do you have to fly?
That was a long flight. Like it was like 12 hours. Like we had stops, obviously, like we stopped in Hawaii, but then the whole flight itself, it like took a toll, especially on like little kids when you're flying that far.
Yeah. And also I just want to mention it, you know, because there's a big military base on Guam.
There's 2, and there's gonna be 3 soon.
A third one.
Oh yeah. So Anderson Air Force is on the north part of the island, and then the Navy one is the south, and then they're gonna build a Marine one. Well, I believe they're still building it. I'm not sure if they finished it yet, but they're currently in the process of it, I think.
Okay. Awesome.
So I would say, you know, your wish to have your family, because Guam is not such a big island, and it's I think it's mostly occupied, let the American forces out of it, really by natives.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly, well, it's kind of like a mix now. It's very hard to like tell because when I was little in the 2000s, it was more mixed versus like when my parents were little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like, that's why I was like, when people would ask me that here, I would just say it's essentially like here, except just the climate's different. That's pretty much it. And a lot of it was the most culture shock thing that happened to us when we moved here was the fact that it was like bigger, like everything was bigger. Cause you know, Guam's a small island. And so like our schools were kind of smaller and a lot of things are smaller. And then when we moved here, everything's like huge. And we were like, whoa. And like also the population is like huge too, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And like the amount of kids in like one class compared to like in Guam is like double.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also Sophia has a twin. She has a twin brother.
That's what freaked a lot of the doctors out too.
Yeah.
Not identical, obviously, but my brother, he likes to say he's a day older, but he's really just cut off by midnight. He's 8 minutes older. So he actually is a perfectly normal guy, but that's why when I got sick, one of the things my mom was really paranoid about was watching him because she is worried, like, because he had really bad eczema when he was little. So she is worried, like, since I was getting like this ill in the beginning, she was worried, like, is something going to happen to him? Because usually when we were little, that's kind of how it mirrored each other. But luckily nothing happened. And even the doctors, when they found out like I was a twin, they'll be like, oh, wow, really? And then they'll check on him and he's totally fine. And I'm just the opposite.
Wow, that's awesome. Are you, you're in remission now, right?
I mean, we want to say remission, but after what happened in junior year, I kind of stopped using that word because it's kind of one of those things like you really don't know anymore.
Okay.
You really never know. Like that's the thing with CIDP also compared to GBS. When they told me GBS is one of those things where it kind of happens once with life affects the CIDP that can come back. You never really know if you're in remission. Like you never really know if it's coming back or not. Because when I was in high school, I wasn't sick. I never like had any like relapse all the way back from Guam. And so when it happened in junior year again, you know, it's just kind of one of those things where you think, oh, wow, I thought it was done. Like I thought it was type of thing.
Right. But I know you stay really positive. You remain really positive, and that's a good thing. I
mean, it's one of those things where if you're ever like a person in that situation, like whether or not it's the same illness or not, if you're ever in that situation or scenario, you always have to make the best out of it because it's the only way out. Like that's the only way you can go. You can either just sit there and be mad at everything, or you can continue to keep going. I mean, out of the two options you're given, especially as a child, there's only really one way you want to go.
That's right. And I've always found you to be so brilliant. You know, Sophia actually spoke to a large crowd. Do you remember that? The GBS Foundation had you go and speak?
Yeah, I believe it was between the years 2014 and 2016. I can't remember which year, but I remember I was very nervous about that because all of them were medical professionals in the crowd. And I was just like, wow.
But you did amazing though. They asked for you personally, to come and speak. So because it's such a rare disease, people always want to hear, what you have to say.
I understand that. And I'm more than willing to do it because, you never know if there's someone else who's dealing with the same thing or something different, but a similar feeling that they just don't want to feel alone in it.
Right, exactly. Because you definitely can. And Sophia, you're studying business. And did you want to let everyone know your project that you're working on?
Yeah, so I'm currently going to SDSU studying business administration and advertising. And right now, while I'm working on school and everything, I'm actually working on a short little book for my story about GBS and CIDP and all of the details of that story. And yeah, I'm definitely trying to get it finished by summer for sure, during summer. And the whole process with college and everything. It's been going good. I'm very happy about it because it's kind of like a fun book for me to write because I get to actually like remember like what happened, because especially when you're little, you're kind of just going through the motions to kind of like get it done. And me and my mom like sit down together and we really talk through the details, and she tells me her point of view too, which is a really rare point because a lot of times you hear the person from their point of view, but I want to be able to get the family point of view, especially like the person, like the caretaker.
That's right.
It's for me, it's very important. Like in a situation like this, it's a very delicate situation. So I feel like the point of view from the person and the caretaker is a major part in what makes the story itself.
That's right. I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. And you know, for me, what still is amazing, because not every parent has that reaction that your parents had. You know, okay, we're moving to San Diego, we seek the best for our kid. And you know, that impresses me because I see, unfortunately, a lot of a different story of parents which don't make the effort because basically they put their life on hold, say, okay, I'm going to do everything, you know, now for my kid, you know, try to improve the situation.
It was a tough decision on all of us, not just me, also my brothers, because that was the one place we had our family in, and that was our whole life at that point. Like we knew nothing else. And so when they made the decision to move all of us like to San Diego, obviously my brothers are very good about it. They're understanding of what's happening and they're very supportive of it. They're like, whatever needs to get done, let's just do it. Because at the end of the day, they hit a point of desperation where it's either we do this or we lose her. Like it's one weighted over the other.
Wow, that's amazing.
And actually through this whole story, I was able to meet Lizz in 2014. And I remember I met her at the show and I loved it so much. It was so fun. That was like the first fashion show I've ever been to. And it was so fun.
And you actually never missed the show.
Yeah, I always try to attend. Me and my mom always try to attend, but sometimes it just gets so difficult with everything that like might be happening at the time. But we always love the show every time we go. And it's so fun, especially when it's like we call it like our little girls' night for the year.
Right. Yes. So, you know, just so you know, Eric is the person that brought me to the Westgate.
Oh, I love that hotel. It's such a nice place. No, we love it every time we go there for your shows. It's always like a fun little like fun night for us.
Yes. You have been so amazing, Sophia. You did, I mean, awesome. Do you have anything that you would like to leave with someone that you could speak directly to? Some words of encouragement?
Not necessarily a specific person, but in general, if you're going through, whether it's the same illness or not, like I said before, it's one of those things, especially if you're younger or older, you just feel alone, whether you like to admit or not. You always have this feeling of like, no one really gets it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, whether you have to seek it out for yourself or there is someone near you, there's always someone who either has it worse or knows exactly what you're going through. And that's exactly what my mom would tell me when I was sick. She'd always say, you know, as bad as this is, there's always someone out there who's either going through the same thing or something even worse.
Right.
Because I remember she actually thought when I was sick, she actually thought it was like a bone eating disease. And so that one was like way more terminal in a sense. And so she was actually grateful that it turned out to be CIDP.
Right.
And so I remember that always stuck with me when she said, you know, whether you like it or not, there's always someone out there going through the same thing or something even worse. So just always be grateful that you're even here. And
that's right.
When you bump into people that try to sympathize with you, not for you, it might be hard to tell at first the difference, but eventually you'll be able to see it. And when you actually are able to sympathize with them, it makes the process a whole lot easier.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is big. And, I have a problem right now drawing that bridge to Peter. But I have to say that, you've been going through so much, and it seems to be that you might not know what's happening tomorrow.
Right.
But there, I can draw the bridge to Peter, because he might become that person, who's been through a lot too. Not the same as you, I do have to say, but he made, that transition in age to be able to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to see in his place in 40 years from now, Peter.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
Work
that could
hard,
be a
stay
goal.
healthy, and just keep your eyes on the prize, as they say, and you'll make it. And once you do, you'll be so amazed that you're more prepared for it than you ever thought you'd be.
Mhm.
Peter also worked in hospital administration for quite a while. And I'm just going to throw the ball at you, Peter, right now, and give us your way or how you look at your past life.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Liz. Sophia, your
Mhm.
story is amazing. I'm so happy to see you smiling
Mm-hmm.
and being part of what you're telling everyone today,
Mhm.
and that you have been able to get through what you did, and that your family supported you, and that the people around you that loved you and supported you, that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say that I'm really proud to be here today to actually participate in the Eric and Liz show and see you and hear
you.
what you've been through and where you're going. And you're going to be fine. And keep going to those fashion shows.
Oh, I
missed the Westgate.
I love them.
But I have to say that I am a past purchaser of one of Liz's purses from
Oh.
the gift shop.
Oh,
Not for
thank
me.
you. Thank you.
But it was for someone else, and I'm sure that they're still enjoying that purse today.
Awesome.
Well, Eric, thank you very much. As you were saying, I lived in San Diego since 1990 when I moved from Los Angeles with my family. And I began a job in healthcare administration in 1995. I worked for a small community hospital on the east side of San Diego called Villaview, which is now I believe it's a mental health facility called Crestwood. And I worked there for 3 years, just learning the business, and had a fantastic opportunity to go and work for Scripps Health. And that turned into an 18-year career. And I worked as a project manager, community benefits manager, you name it, director of medical management. I had a lot of opportunities through good people to learn as much as I could about what a hospital does, what the medical community that supports the hospital does, and how those two mesh together. Eric, you were talking about a bridge. There really is a bridge between the physicians and the hospital staff that work as clinicians in the hospital, and then the administrators. It's a team. It's a full effort. It's multidisciplinary, and it takes a lot of skill, but also a lot of patience, and not just patience as in you and me as a patient, but patience. So
Right.
there you go. No pun intended, but it really works. And I can only imagine, having left the healthcare industry about a year and a half ago, what they've gone through with the COVID-19 pandemic. And my heart goes out to each and every one of those first responders, those heroes that work at the hospitals and physicians and have to be in the trenches every day. But more than anything, I'm happy I'm retired. Eric, I appreciate the conversation that you and I had last week, and you wanted me to tell you about what it's like to leave the United States and become a citizen in another country. And Sophia, maybe there's that bridge but you were also a US citizen, just in a different island, but I'm actually now in Mexico. So I'm learning how to speak Spanish. I'm learning the culture here. It's quite different, but there are also a lot of similarities. I have to say, people are people wherever you go.
That's right.
And the one thing I can say about La Paz is about 3/4 of the way down the Baja Peninsula on the Sea of Cortez side. We're probably 800 miles south of San Diego, and we're about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 50 minutes north of Cabo San Lucas, which is at the tip of the Baja Peninsula. And the name La Paz means the peace or peace. And it really is a peaceful, tranquil place to be. It's a big city. It's the capital of Baja California Sur, South Baja. And there's a population probably of around 300,000, give or take. And it's growing all the time. It's expanding. There's a lot of construction going on. We bought a house on the Playa La Posada neighborhood back in the end of last year. And we moved here just 3 weeks ago. We drove down from San Diego, brought all our belongings down. And there's houses being built right across the street from us. And so, it's that kind of thing that you're seeing, the growth, but at the same time, there's so much here that has been established for so many years that there's a lot to do. We're right on the Sea of Cortez, like I said. So there's eco tours, there's not surfing because the Sea of Cortez has a low surf here. On the Pacific side, of course, there's much more surf, but there's windsurfing, there's paddle boarding, there's kayaking, you name it. And there's 2 big islands here, one called, it's a kind of a chain of islands, islets they would call it. Isla Espiritu Santos, which is large. And then outside of it is Isla Cerralvo. And these 2 islands are the 2 largest islands in the Sea of Cortez. So there's a lot of opportunities for little beach coves there. There are tours that take people to swim with the whale sharks. Here in Mexico, the Spanish term for them is tiburón ballena. See, I'm learning Spanish, Eric. I told you.
But I have to do a little thing here. If I wouldn't know better, I would say you're part of the La Paz Tourism Authority now. The way you pitched La Paz, that they're going to have an influx.
Well, I hope so. And I would definitely encourage anyone, like I tell my friends on Facebook, if you're intrepid, come down to Baja. Baja is beautiful. The countryside is amazing. We drove here. We drove leisurely. It took us 3 days to drive down. We spent the first night in Mexicali because we got a late start just across the border. And then we drove the next day 8 hours to Guerrero Negro, which crosses the Baja Peninsula onto the Pacific side. Here's a great example of the difference in climates. We stopped in San Felipe for lunch and it was 85 degrees. And when we got to Guerrero Negro at about 6 or 7 p.m., it was just starting to get dark. It was 55 degrees, windy as heck, and cold. That's the Pacific. And everyone I talked to there said, oh, it's like this all the time. And I thought to myself, why would anybody want to live in Guerrero Negro? But then I found out that my life partner, Adriana, lived there until she was 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a small world, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say that the experience has been wonderful. And I've been coming to Baja since 1994, I think was the first time I traveled down. And I spent time in Loreto several years fishing with some friends from San Diego who owned a house there. And I'd go down for, 3, 4, 5 days at a time and fish with them. And then I started going to Cabo San Lucas several years later. And I've been to Cabo San Lucas 12 times. Like I said, I love to fish, and that's one of the capitals for marlin and tuna and everything in the world. So the fishing there is really good. And it's a big party town. I'm old now. I don't party. But I still love the ambience and the atmosphere. So La Paz kind of is really the happy medium between the two, I would have to say.
Well,
Wow.
Sophia, just do you like to party?
Actually, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not really the party type. I'm really not. I'm more I like more intimate like events, like just like me and a close like small group of friends. I don't really like the whole big party thing going on. Like the closest thing I get to like big parties before is like when all of my family's here, we'll do like a barbecue in the back and have like all the little like cousins and everything and uncles and aunts all around. But that's like in terms of like partying, like college parties, no.
But
Good for you.
Nice, like walk on the beach, seeing the marine life type of
Oh
thing.
yeah. I love the ocean. In fact, that was one of the things like I know for sure I took for granted on Guam, like because the ocean is clear and warm and you can see so many like beautiful like local wildlife in the water. And then when I moved here, like the beaches are still beautiful, but the water is so cold. Like it's so cold.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is different.
Well, Sophia, that is, well, now I can draw another bridge. There is the biggest maritime university. Is that right? If I say maritime biological research institute in La Paz. Yeah.
Very close, Eric. It's marine biology.
I know sometimes my British just sucks. So.
No, the university here has one of the largest, if not the largest, marine biology program for undergraduate, and I'm not sure if it's graduate, but for sure undergraduate studies in the world. And it being on the Sea of Cortez, which, Eric, as you previously alluded to during one of our conversations, as Jacques Cousteau's aquarium of the world. It really is. And there's so much here in terms of marine resources to learn and study that it's become one of the places that students who are acutely interested in marine biology gravitate to. Sophia, you were talking about the water in San Diego being chilly. And I was laughing earlier because today the air temperature is 95 degrees.
Oh.
We had some breeze earlier, which made it feel like it was maybe 90. But the water temperatures have steadily been climbing over the 3 weeks that we've been in town here. And today the water temperatures are between 77 and 78. And a few years ago, during the big El Nino in San Diego, the water temperature at La Jolla was recorded at 78, and that was the highest in the history of record keeping for water temperature. And we're just in May. So I was here last year in October and the water was 86. So it's going to be a lot warmer. But if you like warm weather, which I do, it's great. Now, we also will experience a hurricane season here. And I talked to some of the locals who are encouraging us to have a generator ready if electricity goes out for more than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And when you live in a place like that, you know, Floridians, they're used to it. People who live in Louisiana, I think they're used to that type of thing too. This will be my first experience of living in a place that experiences hurricane or hurricane-like weather. But I have to say that I'm not looking forward to it, but I want to at least live through it and experience it so that I'll know what it's like.
Right.
And hopefully everything will turn out okay.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. I do have a question. Peter, how did you narrow it down to doing your retirement and becoming a fisherman and starting a fishing company? How did you narrow that down?
Well, actually, it's a short and kind of a cute story. A little over a year ago, I met Adriana, who's my partner for life. And during one of our first conversations, she said, I just want you to know that I'm planning on moving to La Paz. And she was preparing to come here last April to look for property. And of course, with the pandemic, she was unable to do that. But I let her know that I've been coming to Baja in Loreto and Cabo San Lucas, Todos Santos, places like that for many years. And then my dream to live in Baja, live near the Sea of Cortez, and be able to have a fishing business. And so she said, well, let's start a partnership. So her part of the partnership is she's purchased 2 condominiums here that are available for folks who want to come down and fish. It's kind of going to be a package deal. They can fish with me and then they can stay in the condominiums. One of them is fully furnished. It's going to be ready by the end of this month. And then the other one is in the process of being built. So it's in a new building. So we decided, okay, let's be business partners as well as partners for life. And she'll do the real estate side of it, and I'll do the fishing side, which is what I love so much. I've been fishing since I was 5 years old. So it's been inevitable for me to live in a place that is like the Sea of Cortez, that has so many fishing opportunities. And as you said, I'm in the process of starting that business. We want to make sure that she's up and running first, because I don't want to tell somebody, hey, come down, we got a place for you to stay, before I have the fishing boat.
Right.
So exactly. We've decided on a name. It's going to be called Pedro's Real Mar Sport Fishing.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yes. So yeah, it's a natural for me. I love fishing. I was a swimmer from the time that I was 8 years old until I graduated from high school. And I was in the water almost every day with swimming and water polo. So I think I'm half fish. And I think that's why I like fishing so much.
Right.
My mother used to say I have scales. And every once in a while, I will have gone fishing. And 3 or 4 days later, I'll find a scale stuck to my arm or on my fingernail that has subsisted there after several showers. So maybe I am part fish.
Oh my goodness.
And now to make it even worse, okay, for people which don't live in San Diego, they maybe don't know that, but we have actually a bridge from the US side into Tijuana Airport. That means you can actually walk to Tijuana Airport and take a flight, a national Mexican flight. Right now, the tickets are $75 return.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. I just wanted to push that your way, Peter. But also, maybe Sophia feels she wants to have a deep fishing experience. I don't know. You never know. This is about new discoveries.
Right.
It certainly is. And
I thought was my Uncle Danny when he'd go out and get us like crab and lobsters, literally like right past the reef. That was always fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Eric, you're right, because the CBX cross-border terminal is the easiest way to get to La Paz, get to Cabo, get to Puerto Vallarta, get to a lot of places in Mexico where Volaris airline flies. The flights are very inexpensive. It's an easy walk. You enter the building, you actually walk across a pedestrian bridge, and there's a line there that says US on one side and Mexico on the other side. You cross that, and then when you get to the bottom of the stairs there, you are in the Tijuana airport. And the flights out of there are very easy to take, and I recommend it. And I have to put in a plug for Adriana's business. I'm going to give your listeners the phone number for them to call to book the Airbnb.
Go ahead.
Thank you. It's 612-169-5451. And the condo is in the La Terrazas condominium building in La Paz, which overlooks the Bay of La Paz. It's up on a hill and the views are astounding. We stayed there for a month when we came down last year, and that was what made us decide to buy a condominium there, because it's so easy to get to, it's safe, it's secure.
I have an idea, and
have to pass through a guard, so there's nothing to worry about.
No, because you got the opportunity here. Say if you get 10 bookings for the show, Sophia gets a week for free.
I think that's a good deal. I really do.
I've actually never been. No, I've never been. Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, start working on your passport, Sophia.
Oh, I already have it done.
Oh, there you go.
I was planning to go to Europe to visit my cousin in the Air Force this summer, but I don't think they'll be open up by then. So that kind of got canceled.
Well, La Paz is open. La Paz is at just below the green level now. But most of the restaurants are open. The Malecon, where everyone walks and exercises in the early morning and the evenings because it's so hot during the day, is open. The beaches are open, and it's a vibrant community here. There is a art museum that started a Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera exhibit through August.
That's awesome.
And we drove by yesterday, and there were people standing. We wondered what was going on because there were all these people in the street and in the sidewalk. And then we realized, oh, it's the opening of the art museum. So La Paz is opening. La Paz is ready for you to come and visit. Please do.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It sounds great. I mean, hopefully, definitely, I hope that throughout the whole COVID thing, every country starts to reopen again, because a lot of them, especially Guam right now, is not exactly taking people in, from what my cousin said. And we rely heavily on tourists. So that's kind of taking a toll.
Right.
That is true.
Yeah, we'll get back slowly but surely. You know, things will start moving in the right direction, you know?
Absolutely.
But, you know, I can only say get frigging vaccinated. You know, I'm fully vaccinated now, and I'm over 2 weeks over my second vaccine. I do have to say, just mentally, that feels good.
Right. I totally understand what you mean.
I agree. Having had vaccines before we left San Diego to come to La Paz, and let me tell you, in terms of putting your mind at rest, that you are not going to hopefully infect someone or be infected from COVID-19 through traveling and being in a new, different country. Yeah, it's so important. And here's another plug. I'll have to say it because you did, Eric. Please get vaccinated when it's your turn, because you're helping yourself, your family, and the rest of the world.
Right.
However, I have to put in, because I know there are still issues in the GBS community. I think they have not yet said how secure the vaccine is for you.
Right. I'll just say Google survivor, patient, their caregivers or whoever. Just Google it on the foundation's website, which is gbscidp.org, I believe. If you just put in gbscidp.org, there will be all types of information for you to look at, different videos. It'll tell you if you should get it or if you shouldn't. That's what I'll say about that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sophia, it was funny. I was literally lip reading you.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I muted myself.
That Liz was saying it, you were like, it was coming out at the same time.
Yeah, he came in and I didn't want him to like say anything, and then you got it over like records into here. So I just want to make sure he didn't get on. So I want to mute it real quick. Yeah, that's my twin brother. So that's him. Yeah, he just.
Oh, okay.
Is he standing there? Well, get him into the picture.
Oh, he went into the restroom. He's just changing.
He's visiting.
No, my twin brother still lives with us. My older brother is the one.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that's right.
He actually can't leave like for a while because right after Georgia, he's going straight to his duty station. So.
Okay. Yes. All right.
Well, Sophia, Peter, thank you so much for being on the show. That was very informative.
Very informative.
And our show is about the outlook. It's really about positiveness. And sometimes what amazes me is what can happen to you and people still come out of it on the positive side instead of resigning and saying, okay, I can't do it anymore, but still are going, pushing on, being positive. I mean, Sophia, you've been through so much. And, and Peter, we haven't even touched on his, knees and things like that. Because in comparison, that's nothing.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, I can still walk.
It's about there is life, and let's do it, experience it, and no day is for granted, apparently.
That's right. Really, all we have is the moment. So, hey, take care of that moment and just, keep it moving. It was such a pleasure to have you guys on our show today. It was awesome.
Thank you for inviting us.
You're more than welcome. And we're going to have you come back, both of you, because we want you to, when you're done with your book, you're going to come back. And once you get your business up and running, hey, that's going to be exciting.
Hopefully, yeah.
It's going to be, yeah.
Well, thank you all. And we look forward to seeing you in La Paz.
All right. You never know. That's right.
We definitely plugged that one. That's for sure.
Yes. And we're going to put their information. We're going to put Peter's information, underneath our video so that, people can connect with you, Peter.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That would be great.
All right.
And of course, Sophia too. So
Thank
you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
We see you soon.
All right.
Bye, Liz. Bye, Eric.
Bye-bye, Peter. Bye-bye, Sophia.